Good morning. All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome to True North Insight, our channel of teachings and practice to help us through these fiery times. My name is Jill Davey, and I'm one of the Dharma teachers with True North Insight. And depending when you're watching this or where you're watching it from, it may or may not be hot for you. But where I am, we're having a heat wave. Hey, is it raining there, Terry? And it looks like it's going to be hot and of course it's all relative, what is hot. But so this heat, external heat, has inspired this theme or talk. Good morning, Monty. You've been refreshed. Good. May you stay refreshed. May it be so. Yeah, it's eased off a little bit. And so the topic today is cooling the mind. Cooling the mind. And what it's, let's see. So where do I want to start? The word nirvana. Nirvana is maybe one you've heard about. And I'll also put nibbana. So nirvana, great name for a wonderful band that is no more. But at least I don't think they are. No. When Kurt died, they are no more. So nirvana, I guess it'd be interesting to know, like, how you would describe nirvana. What brings to mind when you think of good morning, Geeti. Good to see you. Feel your presence. Yeah, what does nirvana mean for you? Good morning, Cassie. So feel free to add that into the chat if you like. What comes to mind when you think of nirvana? So let's just see what comes up there. So nirvana is a Sanskrit word, and I'm going to talk about the Pali origin of that word, which is nibbana. So I wrote that in the chat there, nirvana and nibbana. Nibbana is Pali for not the same, but yeah, what is translated as being the same. So for many folks, and we'll see what pops up in the chat here, but nirvana sounds like heaven. It brings images of a heavenly realm of, as I gestured, as I said it, it's like, oh, that kind of nirvana where everything is perfect and blissful and complete and pleasant, of course, pleasant. But maybe it has different meanings for you or different invocations. So just to mention that when I say Pali, the word nibbana, Pali is the language, the teachings of the peaceful present mind. Lovely. Thank you, Terry. Yes, much closer. Ultimate happy place. Yeah, ultimate is good. So I have one of my favorite books here this morning. See, I don't really think about it because it can add a grasping, good one, Kathy. It can add a grasping element to practice. Good point. And we'll talk about that. So this is one of my favorite books here, Pali English Dictionary. Lovely, lovely. With all my tabs, because the alphabet is very different than ours in the way things are ordered. So this word nibbana, it actually means, good morning, Rebecca. Thank you for being here. Dear Sangha, that's so nice. Yeah, as you've mentioned in the chat here of this, it can sound like a place, ultimate happy place, a place to get to, a heavenly realm, and as Kathy mentioned, if we see it that way, good morning, Zach. It can add an element of clinging, grasping, of wanting, obviously, to get there, because that sounds better than what we may be dealing with at any given moment. So, Nibbana, I'll talk about Nibbana, is actually not about getting somewhere heavenly, if you will. It's actually not about getting anything in particular, but it's actually rather about extinguishing the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. And Nibbana is often kind of used interchangeably with the words enlightenment or liberation. So Kathy's adding for them, it's wholeness, acceptance of things as they are. Lovely. Yeah, that's definitely an element. Not, yeah. So ethics is a big part of it, which I know you're very aware of as well. Okay, here's me with my nerdy glasses. Cute. So I'm going to just read a little bit. I mean, the definition of Nibbana in here goes on for pages. So just a few highlights. So just as I was mentioning, it actually means extinguishing the fire. So this is why this theme of cooling the mind. And so this thing, this kind of like ultimate reality, this kind of it can become this kind of goalpost in our practice or our intention, as Kathy was pointing to. And so to understand that that's not helpful sometimes or accurate, that thinking of it as getting somewhere, but it actually means not just cooling the fires, but putting them out, extinguishing the fires of the three defilements, the free root poisons are sometimes called, greed, hatred, and delusion. Yeah, so there's different ways here in the Pali English Dictionary of putting out this fire, these fires of, I call it Raja, Dosha, and Mosha. Are people interested in Pali? I'll put it Raja, because I am, and Mosha. So that's greed, hatred, and delusion. I'll put the English. Do I have them in order? Greed, hatred, delusion. Oh my, illusion. There we go. Oh, good. Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, I might have Raja, Dosha, more. I might have the order mixed up there. I'd have to look that up again. Okay. So there's ways, and actually this word Nibbana was used, I'm not sure if it still is so much, maybe, in India as like an everyday word of actually putting out a fire or cooling, like the rice is cooled off or that kind of thing. It's quite a everyday word, which I think is interesting that it's not just reserved for something otherworldly. And so ways of extinguishing the fire, any fire really, is to cover it over, right? To throw sand on it, to cut it off from, like deprive it from further fuel. not feeding the fire, not adding more fuel to the fire. This is very, very important. Or taking away the cause of the fire production in the first place. Nirvana is freedom. Yes, yes. Freedom from the defilements is what it is. Yes. So, yeah, this is nice. Further down, meanings. The dying out in the heart of the threefold fire, lust, ill will, and in here they say stupidity. Stupidity is a pretty harsh word, to say the least. Yeah, raja is desire. Dosha is ill will or hatred. Yeah. Okay. But what I like there is the dying out in the heart. So you've heard me talk about this word before. Chitta, heart, mind, the aware heart, the heart of awareness. So heart and mind are not like these separate places in our understanding. Yeah. Okay. Very important here. So this, adds on to some of what you're saying here. Acceptance of things is part of it, but it says that nibbana is purely and solely an ethical state. Wow, that's amazing. To be reached in this birth, this lifetime, by ethical practices, contemplation, and insight. It is therefore not transcendental. Wow. And then it talks about practical habits. It's realized in one's heart. Interestingly, it's at the same time as being within this lifetime possible, with ethics, wisdom, insight, practice, the freeing and liberating of our heart mind is possible. It's also considered nibbana to be unspeakable. We can't really use our language as we know it, our concepts, there's kind of ultimate and what's the word, ultimate and mundane. Yeah, mundane, supramundane. So there's kind of two different levels. No, levels isn't right. Categories of nibbana. A relative. Thank you, ultimate relative. Team. Go team. So lovely. Thank you, Kathy. Yes, relative and ultimate aspects of nibbana. And so we could say the ultimate aspect of nibbana is it's considered an untranslatable expression of the unspeakable, of that for which in the Buddha's own saying there is no word, which cannot be grasped in terms of reasoning and cool logic, the nameless, undefinable. Yeah, and as Kathy said, as soon as we start to name it and think of it as a thing or a place to get to, it can create striving and clinging, which of course is the cause of staying exactly where we are. All right. But this last part I'll read from the dictionary. Yeah, compassion is definitely a verb, and this is a verb in terms of doing rather than a place. Thank you. However, here's another part of the definition. I love, so just you might like to just let these words kind of flow over you and see how they land, and then we'll just chat about it a bit. These are some of the synonyms. Okay, one might fill columns with the praises. Just a sec. Condition of mind, heart and mind. So these are kind of other ways Nibbana is described, you know, poetically, emphasizing different aspects of it. The harbor of refuge, the cool cave, I like that. The island amidst the floods. And here's that noun sounding, the place of bliss, emancipation, that's the freedom, liberation, safety, the supreme, the tranquil, the home of ease, the calm, the end of suffering, the medicine for all evil, the unshaken, the ambrosia, the immaterial, the abiding, the further shore, the unending, the bliss of effort, the supreme joy. Many others, yeah. So these really, you can hear the flavor of that sense of something other than where I am right now. But actually, this cool cave, this island amidst the floods of the defilements, is possible right here, right now, any moment. I'm just going to turn and put this behind me. Okay. What a great word, Nibbana. So, yeah. So yeah, this ultimate and relative, as Kathy helped me recall that word, aspect that the Buddha realized, reportedly, the ultimate extinguishing of the fires, no more becoming, no more creating of itself. This can be seen in lifetimes or moment by moment. But also that we can have foretastes of that experience in this lifetime. And for some, it's possible to realize that ultimate attainment as well. Attainment, not so fond of that word. But so if we think of a fire burning is very agitated, of course. It's very hot. It's dependent on its fuel. It's trapped. It's limited to where the fire is being stoked and fueled. And so within the fire, you can see this aspect of clinging, you know, that Kathy mentioned, this being stuck to the fuel. The flames are attached to, clung to, stuck to the fuel in order to keep the fire burning. No, I won't go there. It's too far off track. And so to really try to feel this cellularly, to understand this and to know that Nibbana is actually an absence of obsession, an absence of confusion, absence of fear, any sort of distortion and affliction. It's the moments when there's no clinging, there's no fuel, that there's a teacher, Aya Tathaloka, I believe is how one would say their name. Aya is a fully ordained bhikkhuni, a nun. She's the second Western woman to be designated in this Theravadan as a bhikkhuni preceptor, and founder of a hermitage, two hermitages, I think, in California. So in an article from Buddha Dharma, Aya is asked, what does enlightenment look like? We've spoken about it as an internal experience or reality, internal. But if we encounter it in another person, does it have particular qualities? Are there certain behaviors that we can reasonably expect? It's interesting. I was listening to a talk from one of the teachers on the 3-month retreat, and she was recounting time in Burma where she'd been practicing in mountain hermitages, etc., and talked about, people that were many of the monks that were said to be awakened or arhants, enlightened beings. And what really stood out for her was how different they all were, how their character was still fully present. Like, some were just laughing all the time. The one was talking about how he almost died the other day, and he's like laughing about it. Others were really just so serene and calm, and just being in their presence transmits that, and so it's pretty. I find that very interesting. It's not like that all enlightened beings are chorus of angels. And Aya here says, I think what enlightenment looks like depends on who is looking and how they're looking. There will be those monks, those whose minds are so distracted or mired in various delusions that they look at an enlightened person and don't see anything special at all. Others who at a different stage might see a person's radiance, clarity, and sense of power or ease. And so she reiterates, I think of enlightenment more in terms of what is absent. This is helpful to look for. Absent: obsessions, grasping, aversion, absence of resentment, absence of fear, of doubt, of discontent. All of the energy that normally goes into running those things is then free, present, and liberated. Isn't that fabulous? So I hope you can feel inspired by this. This is possible for us. And, in moments, at times when we can see clearly, when we can open the heart and mind and see where we're clinging, and to release, release before we speak and act. And then how this describes how all that energy that is usually directed towards getting things to be how we want them to be or not want them is liberated, freed. And this is something we can sometimes see in others. Yeah, this again, sometimes people imagine Nibbana as being like a faraway city outside of themselves. So they set up this strong duality and then want to practice really, really hard to try to get there. Again, this is what Kathy was talking about. And Aya is reminding us that so much of right effort, So there's previous talk on these threads here of the 4 different right efforts, and this is so important for you to really know for your practice. What effort's needed right now? Abandoning, suppressing, covering it over, which doesn't mean denial. It means, like, throwing sand on the fire. Right effort, to come back to ourselves and awaken within the present in our bodies, feelings, and minds. We can do this. We can do this. Right? This is so possible. This is our practice, is our training. Coming back to the body, mind, heart in the present moment. As long as the aspiration is projected outside, the grasping mind is like I love this, is like a long bungee cord, forever propelling us into other circumstances, keeping us dissatisfied and suffering. So much of the practice is about getting out of this habit of perpetually seeking and grasping outside of ourselves. It's such a good image, right? This long bungee cord, like, oh, I want, clink. On and on. Really helpful. Okay, so how? Well, the Eightfold Path, the middle path, is our how. The way, the path, is the whole Eightfold Path of how to practice for liberating the heart mind. But specifically, we can talk about these 3 root defilements: greed, hatred, and delusion. And I hope you understand, so I'll just clarify that those are strong words: greed, hatred, and delusion. We might think, oh, I don't hate anybody. I love everybody. And hatred here means even the subtlest not wanting. Greed, you might say, well, I'm not a greedy person. I do all these wonderful, generous things. Greed, in its subtlest form, also means just wanting my mind to be calmer, wanting my body to be less in pain, wanting the weather to be different. It's all these little subtle wanting and not wanting. This is greed and the subtlety of hatred or aversion. Delusion is not seeing clearly, which happens a lot, maybe all the time. Ajahn Chah, who's the Thai forest master at the root of this tradition, speaks quite clearly about, okay, so these 3 root defilements that we all have, unless we're, have reached nibbana or nirvana, attained, released the defilements completely. They're still there. So if we think about greed, clinging, wanting, desire, these are all kind of different aspects, variations, progressions of tanha, thirst. The antidote to that, so, these are to extinguish the fires, to extinguish them has these, you can just think of a fire, very clear antidotes of how to deprive it of further fuel, to cut off that fire, to put out the fire. So the antidote to greed is generosity. Dana, it's called in our practice, but also chaga. Tempted to look it up in the dictionary. It's right behind me. Chaga, pretty sure. So Dana specifically refers to the generosity of supporting monastics and in the West, teachers, so they can continue sharing Dharma, because we do this freely and are supported with great gratitude for the support of the teachings being able to continue. So Dana is specifically for keeping the teachings alive. And chaga, pretty sure, this is also a mushroom tea though, isn't it? Chaga. Which is something else. Oh, I want to look it up. But anyways, I'm pretty sure it's correct. Chaga. It means just generosity in general, like to anyone, to all beings, that mindset and those actions of generosity. And so we can see there's obviously a clear correlation there between, because generosity means letting go. How much do I need? And how liberating it is for our hearts and minds to be able to support others. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. Ajahn Chah said that nibbana means not grasping. Nibbana means not giving meaning to things. Nibbana means letting go. So dana, generosity, is doing meritorious deeds. So in the Eastern cultures, actions of generosity are said to accrue merit. And so it's very hard for us to understand that concept in our culture. I had something here. Okay, merit is like this. Merit is what is good and beautiful, not harming ourselves and others with our thinking, speaking, and acting. Then there is happiness. Nothing negative is being created. Merit is like this. Skillfulness is like this. It can become in some cultures giving for the sake of getting, giving in order to attain merit so that I can, ascend to a different heavenly realm in my next life. And to bring it into our daily practice here is merit for the liberating, for the freeing that generosity gives to the heart and mind. There's not clinging, there's letting go. And it's skillful, it's wholesome, it brings happiness. It brings happiness in the thinking about it, happiness in the doing, happiness in the reflecting. 3 times that it gladdens the heart, and of course for the recipient as well. Okay, then hatred. The antidote to hatred is our practices of the Brahma Viharas, the divine abodes of the heart. Loving kindness, karuna, compassion. So metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha. These are loving kindness, friendliness meditations, compassion meditations, where we're directly untethering the heart in relation to the suffering of others. Mudita is practicing in the feeling the resonant joy. This is something that comes from generosity. When you've given your time, your energy, your financial support, all the ways we can give. Reflecting on this brings this quality of mudita, of joy, in the continued, may your success, may your well-being continue to grow. This is mudita. And upekkha is equanimity. So these meditations and practices and way of living particularly counteract, they are an antidote to hatred. And compassion, as you've heard said, is not just a meditative practice, as Terry said, I think. Yes, Terry. Compassion is a verb. It is how we move in the world, how we respond, how we act. So this obviously will be an antidote to hatred, how we respond, what we are actually doing. Also, our sila, our ethical and moral compass, guidelines, intentions, practice. You know, what are your core values? What are your intentions of non-harm, not taking what isn't freely given? Obviously, this counteracts greed. Non-harm counteracts hatred. Undertake the training to refrain from unskillfulness caused from intoxicants. When we're intoxicated through whatever many means there are, there is a high likelihood of being unskillful, which then is causing harm. With our sensuality and sexuality not causing harm. I'm missing one. Non-harm, non-stealing, sexuality, intoxicants, speech. I'm talking too much to remember speech. Yeah, to not cause harm with our words. Okay, lastly, the antidote to delusion, of course, is the practice of wisdom, insight, vipassana, seeing clearly the nature of things, particularly in our own hearts and minds, which then informs how we move into the world. Wisdom is an antidote to delusion. All of these are for getting rid of defilements and craving and making the mind empty of self-cherishing. So good. Empty of self-cherishing. That's great. Empty of concepts of self and other. As soon as there's concepts of me, then there's other. And for not wishing for anything, not wishing to be or become anything. In Pali, nibbana pachayo hotu, make it become a cause for nibbana. So whatever is happening, make it a cause for nibbana. Whatever is happening. I can't put accents on this chat, but the first A should have a line over it in Pali. The accent of a straight line over it. Yeah. Do you want the Pali for that? It's nibbana pachayo hotu. There you go. So this could be a little something you write out. Make it a cause for nibbana. Remember it. Remember it. Remember it. Practice it all day long. All day long. You can just be like, oh, what would it be like if nibbana was possible right now? Oh. There's a moment of peace right there. Oh, there's no wanting. There's a moment of liberation. a moment of the fire is extinguished, or not, is not extinguished until it's like fully extinguished, but there's no fuel added to that fire right there. This is so important to recognize the moments and feel them. Okay, I'm talking too much. Let's practice. Okay, Ajahn Chah says, hi, Patty, that of course, it's the Four Noble Truths. Having the wisdom that knows that tanha, which is thirst, which is the cause of clinging, the cause of dukkha. So wisdom that knows when restlessness, anxious craving is present in the mind, heart, body. To really recognize, oh, there's a leaning, there's a wanting, because this is the source of dukkha. Ajahn Chah, if you're wishing or for anything or wanting to be anything, you're nourishing dukkha, suffering, bringing it into existence, because this is what gives birth to dukkha. These are the causes. If we create the causes of dukkha, then dukkha will come about. Suffering will come about. Okay, let's practice. I could talk so much more, but then I'd hear about it. This is possible for you. It is possible for you to be, for me, for all beings. It is not something reserved for the gods. This is a human capability to extinguish, to stop fueling these fires. Let's practice for this now. Very important practice. So we need the laboratory of our formal practice to awaken this possibility so that it can come into our daily lives, so we can see when we're aflame and we can cut off the source. We can apply the antidote. So please, as you are able and as your body needs, see what you can put down right now. Can you put down, let go, relinquish? Ajahn Chah says Nibbana is letting go. Is there anything right now in your hands that you could let go of? Just for a few minutes here, put it down. And is there anything in your eyes that you could let go of and just let them come to rest? Is there anything in your mouth, unspoken words that you can just sigh, let go of, let the mouth rest? Feel this perfect moment right now. This is your perfect moment for awakening right now, right now. Invite this intention, this possibility, Nibbana Pachayo Hotu. May it be a condition for realizing Nibbana right now. When we're able to just watch the intention, the leaning of the mind into grasping or pushing without acting on it, without harmful speech, without harmful actions being manifested from these thoughts and intentions, then they are liberated. They just arise and pass. There's no bad karma arising from it when it's not acted on. So you can choose to settle with an anchor if that's helpful and stabilizing for you this morning. Or you can just rest in feeling your being in the center of this moment. Just sitting or standing, reclining. Whole being, breathing, feeling, thinking, sensing, hearing. Beautiful. Perfect. Beautiful and perfect. Taking the one seat. And as you continue just resting in the center of this one seat, really open the windows and the door and see what visitors come. See if you can know when wanting arises or has arisen. Watch where the mind is going. Not by being tight, not by pushing away. Stay relaxed and centered. Nibbana is possible for you right now. Practicing over and over, beginning again and again, watching all the conditions arising in the mind, longings and aversions, delusions, without blame or judgment or harsh reactivity, just knowing these are all arising and being set free. Keep watching and letting go. See if you can allow yourself to also know and acknowledge moments or little micro moments of perfect peace. It is possible for you. There's just little, what does it feel like to really acknowledge, oh, here's a moment of just sitting. There's no fuel on the fire. Peace. And if there's a particular defilement standing out for you today, maybe it's greed of wanting, raja, to apply the antidote of thinking of generosity, thinking of the times you've been generous and feeling that, reflecting on that, or feeling the intention for generosity. How does that feel in the body? This is acknowledging and applying the appropriate antidote. If there's aversion or hatred or not wanting in the heart, mind, body right now, you could apply the antidote of metta, loving kindness phrases, loving kindness intention, compassion, joy. And if there's delusion, fantasizing, just kind of spacing out, not seeing clearly, practice insight, seeing clearly. Nibbana Pachaya Hotu. Make it become a cause for Nibbana, this moment. Nibbana Pachayo Hotu. Oh, I could have practiced a lot longer there, but I talked too long that one. I there's this Ajahn Tongrat, didn't teach a lot, but he always told us, Ajahn Chah is recounting this. He says, be really careful. Be really careful. That's how he taught. Be really careful. If you're not really careful, you'll catch it on the chin. So he's pointing to first right effort, and to actually contemplate nibbana, practice nibbana. Don't avoid it. If we understand clearly what this is, yeah, keep it in the forefront. In the forefront. This does not need to cause clinging. It shouldn't cause clinging. So he's saying here, be really careful. Be really careful. If you're not careful, you'll catch it on the chin. Meaning, karma, isn't coming at us from some external source. It's not someone else's concern. The problem isn't other people loving or hating us. He's saying, you know, how we speak and how we act is what we need to be really careful about. Lastly, Ajahn Chah here says, when the mind starts grasping at things and making a big deal out of them, you have to stop it. It will argue with you, but you have to put your foot down. See, there's quite strong effort here. Stay in the middle as the mind comes and goes. There's that practice of taking the one seat that we talked about earlier. It's in another recording for people that didn't hear it. Practice taking the one seat. He goes on to say, put sensual indulgence away to one side. Put self-torment away to the other side. Love to one side, hate to the other side. Happiness to one side, suffering to the other side. Remain in the middle without letting the mind go in either direction. So, may every moment, may your practice be a cause for nirvana, right now, today. Is this possible? Oh, you're welcome, Rebecca. Yeah, great, Kathy. I'm so glad. It's yeah, I as you can see, really enjoyed sharing this one and refreshing my own awareness with possible, right now. Watch the leaning, watch the clinging, watch the wanting, the aversion. Let it go, let it go. And this does not mean don't act in the world. Of course, you know, as Terry pointed out, we respond to the suffering in the world, but from a place of clear seeing, not reactionary, clear understanding, compassion. Yeah, okay. Stop. I'm so happy you joined me this morning. Thank you for being here. I will be back Wednesday evening, I think, all things being. Maybe I won't. Yeah. And let me know if there's any particular topics you'd like me to teach about anytime and share practice with. Wishing you sweetness. Nibbana Pachayo Hotu. Bye. See you, Monty.